The summit, October 22nd to the 24th, so beginning a week from today. Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and today we're going to have a video with some thoughts on what might actually happen at the BRICS meeting next week, which now begins just a week from today, and we will dig into that. We'll be a little bit on the shorter side today as we have a two-parter with Jim Willie coming up prime time this week. So part one will be tonight on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, part two on Wednesday. And before we get to the part about the BRICS, just did want to make one announcement. As you may have seen on Friday in Rafi's video, Rafi is going to be moving on, and just wanted to comment on that and certainly appreciate everything Rafi's done for the channel. It's been great having him here the last 3 years now, every Friday, and I know a lot of people love seeing him and certainly appreciated everything he did, and also understand there's some things that he wants to move forward. And like he mentioned, there are some things that are changing on our side too. I think there's been a couple of times over the past few years where in some ways we've had to adapt what we're doing to be able to continue doing that. And there's some parts of our conversation with Rafi that we'll leave private, and also there, like you mentioned, there's certain things that will be changing, but you'll be seeing, including one which we'll announce later tonight, of something new that we have coming out. And either case, thank Rafi, and sorry to see that he'll be moving on, but you can find him on his channel at Rafi Farber. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention was also, I know that we have not had Andy Scheckman from Miles Franklin on the last couple of weeks, and a different situation, although again, just something that he has his business and things that he needs to do. And there's certain things that we've had to pursue and look into. And at least for now, we will not be having him every Tuesday, but I know he's also doing plenty of stuff and on plenty of other shows. So you'll be able to find him out there, and things are changing. And in the end, I'll look forward to, as we have some things that are unsettled at the moment, a little bit more clarity on that, keep you posted. And either case, just wanted to mention that and let people know where things are at. And if anyone has any particular questions they'd really like to get answered, you can email me at chris@arcadiaeconomics.com. And in either case, just did want to take a minute to say a word on that. With that said, let us dig into what we have here and some thoughts on the BRICS, because as you can see, the summit, October 22nd to the 24th, so beginning a week from today. And obviously, one of the things that we have talked about on the show, and I've tried to really phrase carefully, because there are reports of something called the unit. There's a white paper which we've talked about. And again, I'll mention that Matt Riley, who many of you saw, and let's pull up Matt just as a reminder here. Here's Matt Riley that gave a great interview. We did this one back in June it was actually. So we did this in June. Matt had contacted me around February telling me about the unit, sent me the white paper, and certainly in the time since, we've seen a lot of confirmation from Pepe Escobar as well as others. And in terms of, and I've tried to be clear, not saying this is going to change the gold price overnight, or even that we know for sure this is not a done deal. Although to the degree that there's increasing confirmation that it is being moved forward, I like to think I've reported that in appropriate fashion. A few data points. Here is what Vladimir Putin said. This was 2 weeks ago, and we'll play just the little beginning of that here.
Including within BRICS, we're working on shaping an independent payment system free from political pressure, abuse, and external sanctional interference.
So there you hear Putin talking about it, not the unit in particular, although the unit is something that, according to Pepe Escobar's reporting, he most certainly has been briefed on. Here, Putin had a special meeting with Dilma Rousseff, president of the BRICS New Development Bank. They did talk in detail about the bank's development. And anyway, we've also seen, here was from TASS, this was back in the beginning of September, where Andrei Mikhailyshin, the head of the task force on the financial services of the BRICS Business Council, mentioned that it is also confirmed that a list of projects has been determined, which a common unit of account, the unit platform for international settlements, and also they're mentioning mbridge and BRICS Pay here. So that came out a couple of months ago. And in terms of what to expect next week, I had someone call me this morning and was asking. He was certainly very excited, which on one hand I can understand. And I know Vince talked about this yesterday, some of the things he's expecting. And for my own perspective, my guess of if we are recording it or talking 2 weeks from now, I don't know that I don't expect that they're going to come out and launch something next week. I think it's possible that I think we would likely get more comments like what Putin was saying here. And also, here was another Pepe Escobar article where they mentioned Sergei Glaziev. This was back in May. And he mentioned a decentralized approach to the emission of potential global trade currencies, whose intrinsic value is anchored in physical gold and BRICS currencies, makes UNIT the most promising of several approaches being considered. So I would think there's a good chance that we see a lot more comments like this. Whether there is an official announcement, I don't know. I certainly can't guarantee that. And fortunately, though, I did reach out to Matt today, and he is going to be joining us next week, possibly together with Vince, and he'll share his opinions. But again, what do I think is the most likely outcome is that we have comments like this from several different participants. Again, when I think about what is different versus last year's BRICS meeting, where we had Jim Rickard suggesting going in that there was going to be a big change and nothing official was announced there. I think this has been going, all of these things have been going on in the background for quite a while. Could be that they're going on in the background and it will continue that way through this year's meeting. But certainly the big difference is that we have had a lot of different data points, a lot of them, the Pepe Escobar articles, but certainly things being reported elsewhere, and the situation with TAS also. I would suggest perhaps one of the biggest clues is that when you look at the rally that we've seen in gold, yes, there's been a lot of Eastern buying, but keep in mind, this was a year where we were told, or the markets were pricing in that we were going to get 6 or 7 rate cuts. Those kept getting pushed off. So certainly when the rate cuts came, we're more aggressive than expected, but it's not as if the whole year has been full of unexpected QE and rate cuts greater than what people were anticipating. I still wonder if a lot of what we've seen here was not ahead of what is coming here. And my friend I was talking with this morning was saying, do you think that there's going to be something and this finally moves the gold price? I don't know that I'm expecting that. You could say that some of whatever happens in the next week or so, some of that could have already been baked in. Certainly, if it's a continuation, I don't know that there's going to be an announcement and then all of the various BRICS countries or others are saying, oh, now we have to buy it. Looking at the data, certainly India and China in particular have been buying their central banks importing large amounts of gold throughout the year. So could it have an impact where you have a wider spread awareness of what's going on? Absolutely. Would I say that I think it's a lock that they're going to come out and announce something that's going to send the gold price over $3,000 in the following week? I don't know that I would expect that. Is it possible? Yes. But I think that there will be more coming out of this in terms of awareness and hopefully commentary. And perhaps if I were to summarize that all in one sentence, I would not go into it expecting there's going to be an official announcement or a surge in the gold price. Certainly those things are possible, but hopefully at this point you get an idea of what I see at least as most likely. And one other reason I mention that is because this was from another Pepe Escobar article where he said, this was the one back in May, as it stands, the priority for the unit conceptualizers is to inform the general public about the new system. So if that is indeed accurate, that would certainly make this year's meeting an ideal place to do that. Does that mean that they will do that? I wish I knew the answer. I don't have confirmation of how that will shake out, as I guess I have said enough times in this one already. So, but again, these are the clues, and that's what leaves me where I'm at on that one. We'll check in with Matt. Was interesting. Jim Rickards did have another article that came out a couple of weeks ago, and here he mentions the BRICS currency is very far along in establishing itself as a viable payment currency. The prerequisites are agreed upon, which can be fixed to another currency, floated, or pegged to weight of gold. That are components that certainly have been included in the unit proposal. Again, I know he had some strong statements last year that did not really manifest at last year's meeting, so factor that in as you will. But anyway, that is his take on there. And one last one I will mention here. This is from Kathleen Tyson, who has been having a heated debate with Matt Riley on Twitter, amongst others. And so she's of a differing view and did mention this note saying she received the report on improvement of the international monetary and financial system, which the Russian Ministry of Finance prepared for the BRICS Plus finance ministers. And at least in that document, which is here, and unfortunately, I have not been able to get access to this document, which apparently she's correct, at least on my computer, does not work outside of Russia. But according to what she says in there, at least in this report, there is not mention of a new currency, gold backed. Where we have a few other interesting ones here. Russia proposes BRICS Clear platform for interdepository settlements. So you can see they're talking about things that, and here she mentions no new payment system is agreed, but they're working on parallel developments in messaging, replace SWIFT and domestic payments. So according to Kathleen, it's not on the official report in here. Certainly seems like they're discussing things that are in line with that. And anyway, in terms of what you can expect, obviously everyone's seen different data points, but hopefully that gives you a few things I'm looking at. And that was the answers I gave to my friend, and hopefully they're helpful to someone else out there. Lastly, as we wrap up, we'd just like to thank Silver Viper, who brought us today's show, and did have a word from Steve Cope of Silver Viper last week. And in terms of just giving you an understanding of why they are continuing to pursue that project, even during a difficult bear market, I'll play a little bit of what Steve had to say on the merits of the La Virginia project.
The model of a deeper contact below that rhyolitic package, and what kind of bonanza grades and widths and materials we could be seeing in there. And then there's an investment thesis that was done by Kreshkat and Quentin Hennig, looking at our material, diving into our database, and really showing us the potential in his mind of what we're on to compared to other assets around the world that have similar host mineralization and different trace elements and things that are going on. And he's certainly very convinced that we're on to a large gold carbonate based metal system. And like I say, where that will work will be at that deeper contact, and we'll have some more slides on that as we move on.
You can find out more about Silver Viper by going to silverviperminerals.com. We also bring Steve on the show once a month, and he'll be joining us in another week or two. So going to wrap up. Hopefully this was helpful. Only a week away now, and we will keep you posted.